Forms is one of Google's hidden gems that's kind of part of the Google suite. And Google Forms are so useful. You can use them to survey people. You can create games and quizzes. You could use it as a quick feedback form. I think that you'll realize that there are many, many uses for forms once you start using them. There's also no limit to the number of people who can respond to a particular form, so your service they want. Now right now I've opened up a form that I previously created, and what I'm looking at is the old version of Google Forms. Google has updated the Google Forms tool because they're trying to give all of their tools kind of a more streamlined look. So if I want to, when you create a new form, it's going to be using the new version. And this is an older form that I had created, so when I open it up, it says, do you want to try the new Google Forms? So if I click on that, it will actually convert it to the new version. And one thing that's nice is if you have created something in the older version of Forms and you try the new version and you say, you know, it's not really working for me, I want to go back to the old version, you can click on this little guy right here and it'll take you back to the older version of Forms. Now, obviously, today we're going to be working with the new version because you're not going to learn an older tool. So what I'm going to do is if I'm in my Google Drive and I want to create a new form, I'm just going to go up and say New, and I would click on More, and then I would choose Google Forms. And when you do that, it will create a new blank form for you. And the first thing that you can do is give your form a title. I'll say Class Survey. And I'm also going to it's actually going to automatically change my form as well. I do have a menu that pops up on the right-hand side, and this is what I'm going to be using to add questions to my form. If I wanted to add any titles or another description for my form, I can. You can insert images or videos, or even a section, which is kind of almost like a page break. So here I am in my class survey, and I'm going to say, please, I'm going to add a description and say, please fill out this form to help us improve our online classes. Okay, so I'm sort of making this up as we go along. And my first question, I'm going to click on it, and it's already default set to be a multiple choice. If I wanted to use a multiple choice question, I will just leave it like that, and I will say, what format do you prefer for online classes? Okay, so my first option might be video. Now to get to my next option, I'm just going to hit enter. And my next option might be a website. The next one might be Schoology or Blackboard. And then I can add an other if I want to as an option for that question. So I might do that. I can make this a required question by clicking on required down below, which means that the respondent has to answer the question or they can't move on. I can also delete one of my choices if I want to by hitting the X next to this. I can delete my entire question if I want and get rid of it altogether. It could be a flawed question or just something I don't care about anymore. Or I can duplicate my question if I want to just alter some small part of it. Now when I go to add a new question, it will automatically go below. You can move questions around by just clicking on the little dots up in the middle of the question, and you can rearrange your questions at any time. If I click the drop-down menu, I can have a short answer question, a paragraph answer question, multiple choice, multiple check boxes, or I could have them choose from a drop-down menu, from a linear scale like rank from 1 to 5. I can use a multiple choice grid, and I can also add the dates and times into my questions as I like as well. So basically what I'm going to end up doing is just continue on this route until I've created all of my questions. Other things that I can take a look at up at the top menu of the screen here, we'll just take a look at these. The first one is add-ons. So if I have added any add-ons to docs or forms, I can use them when I'm creating a form as well. So in Google Docs, if I had maybe added the equation editor that will also show up in forms. So this is handy if you are a math teacher, let's say, and you have the add-on for creating math equations in Google Docs. You will also see it in Google Forms, and it will allow you to use the math equations in your questions that you ask here as well. Now, the little palette allows me to change the look of my forms. I can change it to a different color scheme. I can also, under here, choose a theme. And there's many themes to choose from. And let's say, I'm going to just say maybe sports and games. So there's lots of different themes that you can choose from here. Maybe I'll choose the baseball theme for now, and I'll just say select. And you will see that my theme has changed. If I hit the eyeball, that's going to give me a preview of what does my form look like so far. When I publish this, this is what it's going to look like to the end users. Okay, so they would fill that out and then they would hit submit. On the gear menu, I can decide who can respond to this form. So it can be anyone within our domain or our Fayetteville Manly School District, or anyone, which means anyone outside of the domain. I will just say anyone in CSD. Do we want to collect the person's username when they complete their form submission? You can check or uncheck, and you can decide whether people are able to complete the form once, only once, or whether they can do it for multiple times. You can also have a confirmation page, so once I hit the submit button, I can decide what message gets sent to the person who just filled out the form. And I can give them these options. I can say they can submit another response. Probably not. They can go back and edit their response after they hit the submit button, or they're able to see a summary of responses. The other options is I can give them the option of having a progress bar, so they get a feel for like how far they are through the survey, maybe if they're only halfway finished or if they're almost finished. And I can shuffle the question orders as needed. So if you're using that for like a test in your classroom, you might want to choose that option. And then you would hit save. To send a form or to share it with people, you would click on the send button. Now, the send, I can again from here automatically collect the person's username. I can send the form to people via email, which invites them with a link to complete the form, and they would go to their email to get the link. I can also just get a hyperlink for the form that I can post on a website or share with people directly, or I can get an embed code and I can embed this into an existing website. Most of the time you're going to be doing it via email, and you'll put a list of all of their email addresses, and then you would create a little bit of a message here. If you click this button, it will actually take the form and embed it in the email message. Otherwise, it provides a link where the participants would need to click on the link, and then they would access the form. You can also add collaborators. That's people who are able to actually work on editing and seeing the responses of the form. So let's see a real form in action here. Here is a form that I am going to be asking you to fill out. In fact, you probably have already done this already. And this is what it looks like when I first open it up. And you can see that I'm in the new version. I could switch back to the old version if I wanted. And I have several questions. So I have a couple of short answer questions or paragraph questions. Actually, these are all paragraphs. This one is the check boxes, so you're able to check as many as you'd like. And then the last question is a multiple choice question. Okay, so here is my actual survey. Now, if I wanted to preview, what would this look like? When I click on the link, this is exactly what it looks like. And I would fill out my responses and hit submit. Okay. When I go back to my form, after people submit, one of the nice things about the new version of forms is that you now get your responses right in the form. It used to be that Google would create a separate Google spreadsheet that would collect all of the information in your form. But now the information is actually right here as part of the form, and all you need to do is click on the responses. And I can do a couple of different things. Number one, I can see the individual responses to each form. So I have this selected on individual. And so far, 18 people have responded to my form. So I can go down and I can see what this person responded. Okay, and I know who responded because I collected their usernames. And then I can hit next, and I can see what that person responded on the form. And so I can see each individual person's response. Or what's really nice is being able to hit the summary of responses. The summary is going to give me all of the people who responded, and then it's actually going to break down each question and show me all the responses that have been shared. So as I'm scrolling down, this was a text response, so it's just going to list the text. But if it's a data response, Google will automatically choose the best graph style and will actually show the data graphically, which is a really nice option for any data numbers. So this is a really nice feature of Google, is this summary of responses. In addition, you can choose to take your responses and add them and put them into a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet. And I would do that just by clicking on this. So if I click this button, it's actually going to take all of my responses and populate them into a spreadsheet, which is a super nice option. Also, under my menu, I can just choose some, as the creator, I can get email notifications when new people respond. I can select, the destination folder or which Google Sheet I want the responses to go in. You may already have a Google Sheet that you had previously set up that you want to add your answers to. In that case, you would choose it from this list. You can unlink the form from the hyperlink, or I can download all of my responses in a CSV file, which is a comma-separated value file. If you're not sure what that is, then you probably don't need to use it. Or I can just delete all my previous responses and kind of start fresh with a new form. So this is kind of Google Forms in a nutshell. I think you really need to create your own form and take a form, like maybe a survey, like our class survey, and get a feel for it. But I think that you're going to find this is a very useful tool and one that you'll probably find many uses for in your classroom activities.